Om Shri Sai Ram. Offering my most humble pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet, we welcome you on behalf of the Samarpan team and the Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning alumni. Welcome to all of you for this special Samarpan session on the occasion of the MBA month, the 31st anniversary since Bhagwan began what was then called the School of Business Management, Accounting and Finance. We will begin today's session with 3 Omkars. Respected elders, dear brothers and sisters, loving Sai Ram to all of you. Once again offering our most humble pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet. A warm welcome to all of you for the 44th edition of the online Samarpan program. And also a warm welcome to our very dear Sri Rangarajan sir. Right, lovingly, all of us call him Rangarajan, just Rangarajan sir. It's a very wonderful opportunity to finally have sir amidst us. For the last, Siddharth is smiling, we can see him smiling. For the last 5 or 6 years, we have been struggling to have him. And this virtual platform has afforded us the opportunity to have sir amidst us. This is also very opportune at this time because this is the month on 21st August, Bhagwan, in 1986, Bhagwan launched the MBA program, setting a new era in his journey in his educare vision. And therefore, it's a real pleasure for us to have and privilege for us to have the faculty from the what was earlier during our time called the School of Business Management, Accounting and Finance, and now simply called the Department of Management and Commerce, to have faculty from there coming amidst us. Cutting to the chase, I would like to introduce, for those of us who are not familiar, because I think any of us who have attended the Veda Purusha Saptaha Jnana Yajna, with talks, would be very familiar with Rangarajan sir's thin and tall frame, soft voice, speaking to all of us. So this is for those who probably have not had the opportunity of listening to sir earlier. Dr. Srinivas Sri Rangarajan, like I said, lovingly called as Rangarajan sir by all of us, first came to the Divine Lotus feet at the age of maybe 9 or 10 during his 5th standard. He was born in the beautiful city of Mysore, Karnataka, and was a part of Balvikas and Sevadal movements for a brief period. After completing his schooling from Gujarat, Mithapur, he went on to do his bachelor's in engineering in industrial and production engineering from MS Ramaiah Institute of Technology, Bangalore, in the year 1990. After which, Bhagwan blessed Rangarajan sir to become his student, where he joined the Prashanthi Nilayam campus to undertake the MBA program. After his MBA, he continued with the school SBMAF as a faculty member, and he served Bhagwan in that role until 2009. As a student, he was also blessed to be a part of Bhagwan's entourage to Kodaikanal in 1994. In 2009, Rangarajan sir was appointed as the Controller of Examinations by none other than the Divine Chancellor himself, a role that he continued to perform until 2015. After which he moved from Prashanti Nilayam to Brindavan, where he served as the director of the Brindavan campus until 2019. Since then, he has continued to be a faculty with the Department of Management and Commerce. And he also completed his PhD on the topic of spirituality at the workplace, a study of select Indian business organizations. So that's a very brief introduction of Sir. Sir is also, an amazing storyteller and a great speaker and wonderful teacher. So it's lovely to have you with us, Rangarajan Sir, and we can't wait to hear from you. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. Pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet. Thank you, Brother Anush, for the introduction. Sai Ram to all members of the Samarpan team, respected elders, dear brothers and sisters. It's a wonderful opportunity to interact with all of you. I will be sharing my presentation, which doesn't have any content or text, just pictures. The idea is I want you to see that and relate to the experiences that I'm sharing rather than looking at my face. So I want you to really get transported back to Prashanti Nilayam and Vrindavan and along with me relive those moments. So it should be literally back to Prashanti for about 1 hour. So let me kindly share my screen with you. Yes. So I have done it, and just a minute. Okay, so I hope you can see my screen. Yes, I can see the notch. So let me start now. As I said, Sai Ram to all of you. Today I'm going to speak about the topic which you're seeing on my slide. Bhagwan Baba, an ideal leader. Very frightening, very difficult, because one can go on and on and on. I mean, I found it very tough to scope my talk to 1 hour. There are so many things we can talk about an avatar, because an avatar is inherently a leader. He's leading the whole cosmos. We don't know how many universes. Our planet is just one chota planet. So therefore, I will be just briefly touching on few aspects. Pardon me for that. I'm sure you can see what I'm showing you on my slide now and guess why I have put this over there. I don't know whether you can guess, but let me tell you why I have put that. Because a diamond has many facets. Swami always loved diamonds. You know how many times he materialized diamonds, and he would say the more you cut, the more it shines. Similarly, Bhagwan is such a multifaceted leader. But today, because of the limitation of time, I'll be picking up only few facets. And for each of those facets, I'll be sharing maybe just 1 or 2 anecdotes. And I have tried to avoid those anecdotes which are already known to us, which are in the public domain. I have picked up more personal ones so that it can actually add value to our interaction today. So my structure of my talk is something like this, brothers and sisters. Before I start, one point, when I show you some pictures, always those pictures may not be the same as the anecdote I'm sharing, but it is only setting a context. I will tell you whenever the picture is actually that picture, I will bring it to information. Otherwise, it is more or less to set a context. Okay, and I am also grateful to all the sources from where I've taken the pictures. I have provided the links wherever I had it. And my structure is something like this. If you think of a leader, the most important thing is clarity of the vision and focus. Bhagwan, I mean, when I use these terms, don't misunderstand me. When I say Bhagwan he doesn't have, he's embodiment of everything, but I'm talking about him as an avatar. Tremendous clarity of vision. And then how he selected the right followers to be part of his mission. All of us who are now in this session are part of that subset. Constantly motivating us. A leader has to constantly motivate us, show tremendous care and concern, and we know above all, be a role model, set an example. Otherwise, we will not do it. Swami always set an example for everything. And having set an example, he would guide us and correct us. And having said all that, a leader is most humble. So that is why I chose these subtopics. And then at the end, definitely before I close, I will share the leadership Maha Mantra with all of you. So let's get started. Okay, so what I will do when I'm sharing any anecdote, brothers, sisters, elders, you can do one thing. It will be very engaging. Have a paper and pen with you. Okay, and jot down one or two virtues of a leader which you think that anecdote highlights. I may have categorized it under each of these subtopics, but there may be many more things which you may feel is highlighted by that anecdote or experience. Later, you could share it with me. It will be very good research material for me. So let's start first with, the focus, Bhagwan's clarity in vision. The first experience is an interview which we teachers had with Bhagwan. This was in the early 90s. I joined as a faculty in 93, after 92, after completing my best. So somewhere in 93, 94, Swami once called all the Prashant Nilayam teachers into the interview room. You can see the interview room here, but there are students seated there. This is not the actual photograph. I don't have, those days we were not allowed to click photos. And in that interview room, I remember the history teacher was asking some questions about history. And he was highlighting some gaps in history. And then Swami started flow of, facts and figures about history. And like we all were stunned. And the history teacher himself was, oh my God, Swami is telling so much. And then this is just a little bit of humor. Somebody said, Swami, how come you know all this? Swami said, in this avatar, I have come with all the knowledge of all the domains. Endukante, if I had come just like that, you would have crushed me and eaten me like a papad. This is what Swami said. Like appalam, you would have eaten me off. Anyway, this was the funny part. And then one teacher said, this is the pertinent part. One teacher said, Swami, you're doing so much for the students. You've built a free institution for them. You're giving free healthcare in the hospital, Bhagwan. But these students don't understand the value of what Swami is giving. Teachers, we all lament like that often. So Swami, they don't understand the value. They don't understand. Suddenly, Swami became very stern. And Bhagwan, he assumed that role of a CEO or a leader. And Bhagwan said, Chudu, whether they understand the value or not, that is your problem. From my point of view, education and healthcare must be free of cost. Full stop. Because Swami didn't say full stop, but it was a full stop. Swami said, that's it. Education, healthcare has to be free. Now, whether they understand or not, you struggle for it. Make them understand. That is the clarity. I'm sure you all know, even when Bhagwan built the hospital, many people suggested, many experts suggested, Swami, why don't we cross-subsidize, take money from the rich people and we can use it for the poor? Swami said, excuse me, that's not the point. The principle, the avatar says is, healthcare should be free. When mother is giving food to the child, it is free. She doesn't charge for it. So this is one example of clarity of focus. Another example, this was an interview with Shiv Shankar Sai. You all know Shiv Shankar Sai. He has spoken in this series also. He was the warden in those days. And often Swami would, call him to the interview room, inquiring about students. So this is one episode he shared with me because I was also a teacher in the hostel and he would come back and tell us. So one occasion he was there sitting in the interview room and Swami asked him, Pillalu etla unnaru? Said, Swami, students are very good, doing well. Swami said, discipline etla undi. That was Swami's concern always. So there, you know our Shiv Shankar Sai, very nicely, humorously, in a very cheerful manner, he said, Swami, they all are doing very well, Swami. They are practicing the discipline so well. And then, he stepped a little further, tried to do a little bit of dialogue with Swami. He said, Swami, Swami, your standards are so high, Swami. So, naturally it is difficult for, because he knew that we are not 100% perfect. So he said, Swami, they all are trying. Kani Swami, your ideals are so high. Therefore, Swami, they may be faltering little bit here and there. Then Swami told, no, Musko, Naak Telida. He said, don't I know what my standards are? And then Bhagwan gave him an extremely wonderful guidance. See, these all are like pearls of wisdom. Swami said, see, always ideals should be set high over there. I know, you know that everybody may not be able to reach 100%. That does not mean you lower your standards. What a profound leadership lesson. A leader can never bring down the standards of his institution. The standards are always there so that we get motivated to achieve those standards. What fantastic. I mean, these all are like, they are like aphorisms, they are like theorems. Bhagwan says, and that's it. So this is another example I remember under this. The third example I want to give you is of a gold medal. I'm sure now gold medal is very much there in all our minds. Neeraj Chopra has done such a great thing and made our country proud. But I'm talking of the all-rounder gold medal that Bhagwan used to give. So this is one of those photographs, Swami putting the gold medal around the student's neck. I remember when I was the controller and Dr. Naren Ramji was the registrar, we had once got the chance to go into Yajur Mandir, and often the list of the potential all-rounder gold medalist is presented to Swami. Of course, it goes through an extremely rigorous exercise. They've got to be academically very bright, very good on the cultural front, physical, sports, fitness, service activities, spiritual activities, and only those students are chosen. But then, we have quite a few of them. So we take it to Swami, and this discussion was happening inside. Who should be the winner? Now, I'm telling you, I'm just sharing with you, see how we think and how a leader thinks, okay? So Swami asked us, Chappu, in a very, as though he doesn't know anything. This is a common phenomenon. So as human beings, we have to explain, Swami, he's so-and-so, she is so-and-so, and all that. Then finally, somehow it got narrowed down to one particular student because everybody felt, all the elderly people who were sitting there felt this person is really deserving. And then Swami threw a sixer. See, this is the way a leader thinks and the way we think. Bhagavan asked, Ippudu varaku chala bagunnaru, mundu kuda ma peru nilpettara, means till now he is fine, she is fine. In the future also will they keep up Swami's name? My God, we never looked at the dimension. We always looked at how they were. Swami said, how will they be? And he actually gave some pointers to that. Where does he come from? Is he a part? Was he a part of the Samiti over there before joining? So many questions to estimate and predict in a very human way. Will they keep up the prestige of that medal which they are getting? My God. So I'll just, I'll stop at this because I can go on and on. But this is called clarity, brothers. Leader should first have clarity. What is it that you want to achieve? And then after that comes, how will you select the people for achieving that? So here I'm going to get very personal and share my experience because each one of us has been quote unquote recruited by Swami for his mission. And our stories are different. So let me share my story too. I'm going to be quite brief because it's a very long story. 1992, my MBA was over. Lots of things happened in the vacation. Wonderful experiences with Swami. But let me come down straight to one interview which I got with Bhagwan. It was a great moment for me. It was summer vacation time. Swami called me in, and that's when he said, what's your master plan? And all that. I broke down. Swami consoled me. And finally he said, yes, I will give you a chance. Remember, these are the words he used. He said, he didn't say, I'm going to give you a job. He said, I'm going to give you a chance. Because anything we get with Swami is a chance. So that happened and I was very happy. So more or less, it was like clear that I will be joining the department as a faculty member. So the then registrar, who is now our revered chancellor, Mr. Chakravarti, told me, Rangarajan, Swami has blessed you. Why don't you call your parents tomorrow? So most probably, because they can never say for certain, he said, most probably Bhagwan may like to speak to your parents. So obviously it means, perhaps Swami would. So therefore I told my parents, they were overjoyed. They came for darshan the next morning, and I was seated. Please see the picture. This is a very recent one, but I'm talking about 1992. So the students were not seated on the Trai side. That lawn was open, and we all were seated only on this side. So you can please visualize the scene. Exactly where Swami is standing, just the other way. He was going out for darshan. He had come out of Trai. He was moving out somewhere, where he was standing. He scanned the students. He saw me. Now, by then, already I had an interview. Swami had already told me, I will give you a chance. He had already blessed me. So now it was a question of talking to my parents, and I was overjoyed. Swami looked at me and he did like this. So I came running and I knelt down. Swami is looking into my eyes. I'm looking at Swami's eyes, and Swami asked me this question. Please note, Swami asked me this question. Do you really want to be with Swami? I literally broke down. I said, I thought the story is over. I thought you've already decided to take me in, and this is more of a formality. Still, Swami was testing me. Nijanga Swami Tagra unta. Do you really want to? And there were tears in my eyes. I folded my palms and I was crying within myself. Swami, what other way have I to, convince you I want to be with you? I said, Swami, yes, I want to be with you. Then Swami said, okay, call parents. He called my parents. And of course, that was the wonderful occasion where we got 2 interviews. And I'll be referring to the second interview sometime later in my talk. That's why I'm mentioning 2 interviews. My respectful parents are here. Both are now with Swami. They're merged with Swami. Why I'm showing this photo is in the interview, you can see so much of tears in their eyes, right? Obviously, when you're with Swami, that's all you can do. Tears of joy, tears of joy. In the course of the interview, Bhagwan asked my parents for permission. He said, can your son work in my institute? And all of three of us broke down. I said, Swami, what are you? I mean, it is a lifetime opportunity to be with you. Why are you asking? But that is how he respected relationships. He respected hierarchy. He felt it necessary that even as an avatar, even as God incarnate, he sought permission from my parents. And after my parents said, Swami, obviously he is your son, then Swami said, okay. So see how he has brought each one of us into, I'm sure all of you must be having a very unique story like this. And the story doesn't end here. Yes, I think more or less he had already decided I will be in. And it was summer course time. That evening in the auditorium, there was a cultural program. So the cultural program went on. And since I had got an interview and all, no little form was there. So I could just push my way a little front. So I remember I was seated on the steps, there is the stage, and on either side there are steps coming down because it was so crowded. And I went in the front, made a little bold because I thought now it's okay, Swami knows me. So I went and sat on the very first step. The cultural program got over. Swami was distributing some gifts for all the participants. And as he was coming down, he came on my side and I was seated over there. And what he did was he took this gift. I'm going to show you the picture of that gift because this was the vision statement for my life. When a leader appoints a follower, like all of us are, that day he made it clear for me what my life should all be about. So he gives me this gift, which was a pen. I've still got the pen. I took a picture here to show you. He held it. I also held it, but he didn't leave it. So both of us were holding it. Then he took his finger and he underlined the first line. He made me read it. Lead, kindly, light. And then he gave it to me. He need not have told anything else. It was very clear that perhaps this is what Swami wants me to do. This is why Swami is giving me a unique opportunity to be with him, not for any other reason, so that I absorb his light and to whatever extent I can as a faculty member, as a teacher, spread this light to generations of students who come to Swami. So see, so beautiful, no? Recruitment process. No interviews, no entrance exams, tests and all that, right? But what a beautiful way of selecting followers. I'm sure all of us would have gone through such experiences. The third one is once he takes you, motivation. I cannot say enough about Bhagwan's motivation. Motivation. Every second of Swami's life was motivation. No? Even you look at him, you get motivated. Even today, you look at his picture, you get motivated because he's a generator. I remember in one interview when this was the very first one which I got, I broke down so badly. And then when I came out, my face was also shabby. So he had to explain to the others that nahi, first time hai na, rota hai. And then Swami gave a reason. He said, because I am like a 1,000,000-watt generator and you all are like chota 1 watt, batteries. So Swami is the generator of motivation. So let me give you some nice stories here, personal stories. This is my MBA days. So I'm looking back young in the portico over there. And I remember we have a Viva Voce at the end of our MBA program. At the end of the first year, I had done miserably. Miserable is not adequate word. I had literally muffed it up so badly. I remember I came back to the hostel shedding tears, an adult who is doing his MBA program, because I felt I had let Swami down. And then the next year, I really struggled hard and I understood it's not just about mugging up. It's not just about academic competence. I have to connect to Swami. So I went out of my way, did everything to connect to Swami, get more aligned to Swami. And my second year Viva was a wonderful experience. Somehow the topic got diverted to those topics which are very favorable to me. And I was giving them reply after reply. And I remember one particular question they told me, Rangarajan, it is said that Japan is very rich and very developed nation, but not the Japanese. Those days, it was a very common statement. And then, I told them, see, Japan may be great, but it's about people, it's about values and something like that. And they appeared to be quite impressed. And then they asked me, okay, how do you think we can, inculcate values in this MBA program? Do you think what you're doing is adequate now? Don't ask me from where I got the courage. I told them, no, it's not adequate. We can do more. So it was a very bold thing to say. They said, can you, design a curriculum and give? I said, yes, sir. If you give me some time, I can do it and give it. So these all were very bold answers. I wouldn't take credit for it. Somehow, Swami gave me the confidence. And that evening when I came to the mandir, the administrators perhaps would have told Swami. So Swami came out of the interview room. Rangarajan, in fact, that was the first time he called me by my name. He said, Rangarajan, where is Rangarajan? And I went running. I didn't realize what it was. I was not actually, knowing that this was what was happening inside. And Swami said, bahut acha kiya, and all that. So then I could quickly connect the dots and I said, oh my God, so this was all a sort of drama enacted by Swami. He's compensating for what happened in the first year and he's praising me. But in my heart, I was putting up a castor oil face. This is not the actual picture. What happened was in the middle of the portico. And in spite of Swami telling me all this, I had a very sorrowful face. The reason was, I said, Swami, now at the end of my second year, I have realized that it's not about the degrees. I should have pleased you in your subjects. So I really didn't look for this. You don't have to keep telling me, bahut acha kiya. I mean, that's the least of my concerns. Are you happy with my performance in your subject? So I was constantly, in my thoughts, I was challenging Swami, I don't want this. I don't want this. See, our loving Lord, Swami knows our thoughts. So instantly, just maybe to please me, he said, not only academic subjects, sabhi subjects mein acha kiya. And, I was literally in the seventh heaven. And today I know how far I am from the goal. But there, to please you, to motivate you, so nice it was, Swami blessing. And that was one experience of my MBA Viva Voce. The second experience is about the first medical conference which was conducted in Prashantinithan. This was an international conference conducted by Satya Sai Institute of Higher Medical Sciences. And I had just got in as a faculty member. So, the seniors, the administrators, and also the senior teachers thought, let's put this boy also inside because he has just got it. Swami also would like to mold him. So here is a picture we took in the Sai Srinivas guest house. This is the guest house on the top of the hill. So this was a small team. I remember the first day, Swami called us in and he was interacting so much with me and telling, what has to be done. Auditorium has to be clean because the conference was held in the college auditorium. And I almost felt Swami has delegated the leadership responsibility to me. Nothing could have been worse. This was an ego trap, and Swami had laid it down in an awesome manner for me. So this is what happened on day one, and I was in the seventh heaven, and in my mind I was thinking, oh, now I have to do this, I have to do that, and these are the students, I have to make them do this. Day two comes, I'm completely out of the picture. He calls a group, he doesn't even call me in that. This was too much for me, Today it's different. Today we will take it in the right spirit. But that time I was telling, hello, yesterday, you were interacting with me, and where am I today? Am I just missing or am I lost? It happened on the second day, it happened on the third day. My ego was so hurt. You will not believe, my ego was so hurt. I almost thought I should run away from Prashant Riya. No, because this is how your ego, acts. And Swami as an avatar, he's the indweller. He knows how to prick it. He exactly pricks it at the right way. So this was my first ego crushing exercise in Bhagwan's workshop. And you know what I did? You'll be surprised to hear what I did, but let me share it with you very shamelessly. I remember Professor Subir Bhaskar was the head. I told him, sir, I have very important family problem in Chennai. I have to go. So sorry, it was a lie and I should never have done it. But, this is what happens when Swami is training you. So he said, okay, I actually left. I left. Of course, back at home, nobody knew what's the reason. I didn't tell them all these things. And I remember I came back one day before the medical conference. Very wrong on my part. I attended the medical conference and Jale par namak chhidkna. It is called putting salt on a wound. That day evening, Swami says, where is this whole team which worked? Call them. I'm going to bless them with safari clothes. This was a very sensitive moment for me. I said, I should not be going, obviously. But my professor told me, no, with Swami, it's not like that. Whether you were there or not, you were part of the team, you have to come. I'm sitting there. This is not the actual photo, but I've just put one of those photos. I was sitting in that, that set of teachers and students. And I remember I was crying within myself. I said, Swami, what I've done is so wrong. Please don't give me this. But if you don't give me, what will everybody think? The mind is going through, you want name, you want some respect in front of others. At the same time, you're feeling so guilty. And I was sitting there, I was wondering, what will Swami do? What do you think Swami would have done? He gave me an extra smile, more love, and he gave me the safari. And my guilt conscience was pricking me so badly. I said, Swami, give me an exit for this. This is not correct. You have done it. But for me, no, this will not allow me to sleep for the rest of my life. I go out from the bhajan hall that day. Of course, nobody knew the real story. I am sharing it with you. And I bump into my cousin brother who had come there for seva. And it was the last day of his seva. And he narrated to me how satisfied he was, how happy he was with the seva he did. But for some reason, that particular batch, Swami had not given them Pad Namaskar or whatever it is. I'm feeling so bad that I have to go back like this. Instantly, my heart was clear. I gave him the safari. I said, Swami has given it for you. He was so thrilled. He was so thrilled. And I was so happy that the safari or Swami's blessing reached a deserving person, a person who really had done so much of service. But it was such a great motivation for me that here's a master who didn't let me down in front of others. He didn't say, he could have just even jokingly said, hey, Rangarajan, tumko nahi dekha, you weren't there all these days. Anything could have happened, but he didn't do that. He so lovingly gave me the gift, but also gave me an exit so that my conscience is clear. I can never forget that occasion. I'm sure even my teachers wouldn't have known I did it, but today I have opened it up. The third episode on motivation that I would like to share with all of you is, we are now so used to seeing cultural programs in Sai Kulwant Hall. Let me go back and tell you how it all started. It all started with students putting up presentations in the awareness program in our institute. So it goes back to the year I think 97 or 98. I remember there were some, if I'm not mistaken, Ashwin, who used to work in our super specialty hospital at Whitefield, he was an MSc at that time. It was his batch, just to give you a context for the alumni who know. So they used to come up with Professor G. Venkatraman, a former vice chancellor, whom you all know, and myself were handling the awareness courses. And we had just started the awareness program for the postgraduate students. And with someone like Professor GV, it used to be so inspiring, so loving, and so much to learn. And students were reciprocating with wonderful presentations. I remember that day they put up a phenomenal presentation. It was on the Bhagavad Gita, on the shloka, Nainam Chindanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavakaha. And it goes on. Basically, it says, Atma or the self cannot be destroyed by fire, cannot become wet by water, cannot be cut. Nothing can happen to it. Even the wind can't blow it because it is so subtle, it's beyond everything. You know what they did? They had a screen. I'm talking about late 90s when technology wasn't as it is today, right? So in our audiovisual room in Parthi, they had a screen. They projected fire and water and all that. And then, they were narrating this commentary that, see, there is so much of fire, but is the screen burning? Nothing is happening to the screen. Now there is so much water, but see, is it the screen getting wet? No. And therefore, this is how the self is. Professor GV was in tears. At the end of the class, he told me, Rangarajan, I'm so happy today. Students have risen to such a level. And those days, it was very common that Swami would call Vice Chancellor, Registrar, and Controller of Exams every day to the interview room to inquire about all these things. Prayer mein kya hua, class mein kya hua. He went and told Swami about this. Swami was so upset with him. For what? He said, you alone are enjoying this. Why not, Swami? How could you do this? Pillalu enta baga chestunaru. You asked them to put up the program in Kulwanthala. And that is how slowly our awareness presentations were put up in the Kulwanthala. Swami would be so happy. And today, to what a level it has come. Grand programs are there. See the motivation to bring out the talent. Swami would do anything and everything. I still remember one day in a bhajan hall, there was one music student, a very good singer, and he was sitting in the bhajan hall and the harmonium was kept there. I was also sitting there. He asked Swami, may harmonium baja sakta hu? Can I play this harmonium? You should have seen Swami's joy. Swami said, kiske liye hai ye sab? Swami immediately said, for whom is all this? It's for you. Take it. How much of motivation to bring out the divinity from each of the students, to bring out the divinity from each of the students. Let me close this section with a very profound experience. One of the cultural program was on Bhagavatam, and they were portraying this episode where Parikshit, King Parikshit, is running in the forest, right? He's very thirsty, the story. And finally, he comes across a sage. He says, water, water, water. And the sage doesn't get up. So he gets so angry that he takes a snake and then he puts it around the neck of that. Say, that's how the curse comes, that you will die within 7 days. And the whole Bhagavatam takes place. So this was one of those awareness. They had already done it. We had cleared it and they were putting it up in Kulwanthala. I don't remember the name of the student who was playing King Parikshit. But he was a minor role. There were many major roles in that. Lord Krishna was there. So many people were there. The program got over and, everybody was thinking those glamorous roles of Lord Krishna, Pandava. Swami is going to, bless them. Swami, out of the blue, called for Parikshit, whose role was, his only role was he comes in the Kulwanthala for some time, puts the snake around the sage's neck and goes away. Swami called him and said, bahut acha kya, and materialized a green diamond ring and gave it to him. So we all were wondering, see Swami's ways, nobody can understand, so many big roles are there. And Swami gave, recognition to this boy. But later on, you will not believe, when this boy came and shared his experience with us, we understood what great leader Swami is. This boy had got a small role, and his feeling was, when Swami has given such an opportunity, I should do it to the best extent possible. For 24 hours, he didn't drink water. For 24, one whole day, no, he remained thirsty. He said, because if I have to act as a thirsty person in the Kulwant hall, it should be genuine. You know, that day we shed tears. We didn't even know he did this. It was a personal sadhana. He didn't tell the teachers. He starved. He didn't have food. He didn't have water. Swami recognized that. See, that is a true leader. No, the true leader recognizes the true worth of a follower. He knew that, okay, others have done good, but this boy has, how genuinely he has remained thirsty just to please Swami. Swami blessed him with it. So that is about motivation. Okay, so much more can be said, but let us stop with that and let me move to care and concern. Yes, you're always motivating your followers. I mean, followers is not the right word. You will come to know at the end of my talk why followers is not the right word. We are co-partners with Bhagwan in that sense, right? So Swami, okay, always motivating is one thing. But the care and concern, these are like two sides of a coin. When you know that your leader is concerned about you, cares for you, and is now motivating you to do something which is actually good for you, you will give your life for Swami. That's why all of us, we are ready to give our life. And Swami said, I'm also ready to give my life for you. That is a true leader. So many ways Swami shows care and concern. I mean, it's impossible to count. You take all the water of the ocean as ink and you take all the forests as paper. It's not adequate. So I will just touch the tip of the iceberg with few examples which some of you may not know. Alumni will surely know, alumni of the earlier batches. At the beginning of every festival, every program, Vedam chanting was a very important module. It stopped towards the later years, but earlier years, any program, because why it stopped in the later years was because Vedam was anyhow being chanted in the Kulwant hall. But in the earlier, since that was not there, the usual invocating prayer, some students would be identified. We would wear white dhoti and white shirt, as you can see in the picture here. And on very grand festivals, we would wear orange dhoti and an angavastram. And we would have prepared for a Veda mantra. Usually it is open-ended because Swami would stop. Swami, that itself was a great protocol we had to learn. How Swami will see from at an angle, and in a very subtle way, he will say stop. So one student was always nominated. You have to keep watching Swami. Others can close their eyes. You keep watching the slightest movement from Swami. Om Shanti Shanti. This was all a great experience. So, this is how you communicate with the avatar. Swami will not say, hey, stop. You can't make out Swami's movement. So dignified, so respectable, so perfect. You wouldn't even know Swami has told stop. In fact, the public may be wondering, hey, why did these boys stop suddenly, right? They wouldn't even know Swami has told. So we would chant this Vedam. You are seeing one occasion in summer course where our students have chanted. And at the end of it, it was a given that you will get Pad Namaskar. So it's so beautiful. We have to go and below the table, Swami's lotus feet are there. We had the opportunity to go and take Namaskar. While we would take Namaskar, Swami's concern was always like this. See, just try and understand. This is a table. So Swami's legs are inside. So even if he turns, it's partly inside. So when I bend down to take Namaskar, when I get up, there is a chance that the top of my head hits the bottom of the table. My God, Swami used to be so concerned. This photograph you're seeing is very common. What he's doing is, he is turning and keeping his hand on the head of that student. Innumerable number of times. It has happened even with me that when you get up, your head hits, actually Swami's hand takes the brunt because he has kept his hand on your head and the hand will hit the table. When we say Swami's love is like that of 1,000 mothers, see, these are all, and he doesn't talk of this. Over a period of time, he realized. And so part of the training for Vedam was, brothers, for heaven's sake, please don't put your head up because you will not get hurt. Swami's soft hand will get hurt. So please, because at that moment, you're lost in taking Namaskar. So you're so excited, you won't know what you're doing. This is about Swami cutting his nails. I'm sure this many of you may know. Swami would cut his nails so deep. This is first-hand information I've got from people being with Swami. In fact, once one of the persons asked Swami, Swami, you don't have to hurt yourself because it would bleed. Swami would cut his nails, toenails and fingernails till it bleeds. Means, some blood comes out. So when he asked, no, Swami said, see, but so many devotees, when they take namaskar, they are in such a state of emotion and in a state of ecstasy. They don't know. They will just come and push. And my nails will hurt their fingers. Therefore, I'm cutting like this. So unknown stories of Bhagwan. No? These are not talked about in the public, but this is how Swami would be concerned. My devotees, they shouldn't get hurt. And so he would deeply cut his nails. This is another nice story. Let me quickly go through it. This is Trai Vrindavan, Central Hall of Trai Vrindavan in Bangalore. You can see a chair behind Swami. So on one occasion, the MBA students and we as teachers had come to Vrindavan. Swami had called us for this 21st August, which we are talking about, the anniversary. And the typical gift Swami would give us is what is called heavy tea. Heavy tea means somewhere around 2 p.m. Swami would call us inside and a grand lunch would be organized. We would have already had lunch at 12 in the hostel. And after that, around 2:30, Swami would order from some very grand hotel, some lots of nice stuff would come. So one afternoon, I remember this was the hall and we all were seated. We were served sumptuously and this chair was kept. Usually Swami sits on the chair for some time and then he will also go around interacting with students, but he would sit on the chair. That year, Swami never sat on the chair. So we were feeling a little uncomfortable. You see, Swami is standing and in front of him, you happily eat idli, vada, sweets, everything. You feel so uncomfortable because Swami anyhow doesn't have anything. Swami, at least sit down. So some of the students told Swami, please sit down. Swami said, no, it's okay. And we were feeling really very embarrassing. So again and again, people told, and finally I think Professor Rao and others were there, who was then the dean of the business school. He also told Swami, please sit down. Then, Swami revealed to us something. See, how profound. Swami told, why I'm not sitting down. So he pointed in the hall, there was a wasp flying. It was a wasp, not a bee, but a wasp. It was flying around the chair. Swami said, Chudu, you may not know, but the nest of this wasp is there behind my cushion. And if I sit and I rest on the cushion, it will get crushed. So for a moment, we didn't literally believe something. We thought, okay, Swami is giving some excuse. Then Swami went and removed the cushion. Behind it, it had built a nest. See Swami's concern. Concern. We can go on and on. Not only concern for human beings, concern for one wasp among 84 lakh species. In that, millions of wasps, in that for each wasp. One step further, my God, I can't forget this. I remember once, this was in 2001 to 3, a small team of us were given a very blessed with a very great opportunity of building some primary schools in and around Patti. Swami was very touched because the village children didn't have a building. And they used to sit below a tree and learn. So Swami had called a couple of us. He said, we will take up this project, and we were in that. So in that process, almost every evening, Swami would call us for an interview, more like a formal interview with the CEO of a company. And we would discuss all work-related matters. So one day I remember, Swami called us. Swami was already seated on the chair. And I was the last one to enter the interview. So I went in, and I closed the door. Now tell me, did I make any mistake in closing the door? Naturally, you're supposed to close a door. That is understood. Swami looked at me with so much of, real frustration. I thought, what mistake have I made? Or did Swami tell me something? Did I forget to do something? So I was just looking around. Swami said, is that the way to close the door? You know what? When I closed it a little hard and that sound came, tuck. Swami said, there is life even in the door. You will not believe, brothers and sisters, Swami got up came and showed me how to close the door. He said, see, slowly turn the handle, check, no sound, atla close cheyali. So, you can't speak beyond this. This is the perfectionist that Bhagavan is. So from that day, you will not believe, this all is so much imprinted in my mind, in my own house. I never bang the door. And whenever I see any student also banging, I narrate this experience, because it gets so imprinted in your mind that this is culture. This is Samskruti, that sensitivity towards anything around us, that is culture. So these are some examples of Bhagwan's care and concern. The next topic I have is leading by example. So, okay, all this a leader may do, but if you see the leader not doing, just like our students keep telling us, we teachers always get caught because we are never perfect. So they'll say, sir, you yourself are not doing, you're telling us. So then there is no impact. But with Bhagwan, it's never like that. Swami sets an example before he asks us to do anything. So let me take you through one or two examples in this. So this is a photo of late Anjali Devi Amma, giving water to Swami to wash his hands after lunch. This is a story related to water, which some of you may know. This happened somewhere in the last decade only. One evening, Bhagwan comes for darshan, and his eyes were very red. So nobody knew what is the problem, but we definitely knew there is some issue. So is it some conjunctivitis or what? We didn't know actually what it could be. So couple of the devotees sitting in the portico also asked Swami. Couple of students also asked Swami. So Swami had planned a very big lesson for all of us, right? So he comes out in the outside hall, and then in a manner in which everybody can listen, Swami says, do you know why my eyes are red? So, those were the days, I don't know if you remember, we all would gather around and there would be, Swami would sit and talk like an open interview. Okay, just like Trai, first it started happening in Purnachandra Auditorium, and in the later years it would happen in Pulvant Hall itself. Then that also stopped. And Professor Anil Kumar would be standing and, translating everything. Swami told, see, you people, what you do when you open the tap and wash your face, no? So you will open the tap, wash your face, then you will take soap and you will slowly scrub, and all the while the tap will be open because you will not bother to shut it off. Swami said, I am not like that. I never waste resources. I never waste water. So Swami said, today what happened, normally the moment I wash, I first close it, then I take soap, wash all my face. When everything is over, only then I open the tap. Swami said, today what happened is some soap went off into my eye and I could not make out where the tap is. So there was some delay in opening the tap and washing my face. That is how, since the soap got into my eye is red. So Swami said, did you understand? I don't keep the tap open. The point was not the red eyes. The point he wanted to drive was, I don't keep the tap open. Given that day till date, whenever I brush my teeth or wash my face, this goes in my head again and again. I make mistakes sometimes, but it keeps on haunting me. Oh my God, Swami told close, so close. But still our habits are so hard that sometimes, the tap remains open. Then immediately I remember the story and I close the tap. How he sets an example. An example that becomes eternal, that stays forever. And he's always setting an example, but sometimes he chooses to explain that because maybe we are so ignorant, we don't even know what all he's going through just to set a right example. The other very common thing which you may know is every interview in those days, if you remember, before calling the devotees into the interview room, Swami would personally go and switch on the fan and the light. I don't know how many of you know, it will be off. He will go, he will switch it on, then he'll open the door like he has opened now. He will come out and then call the devotees inside. Then after the interview is over, when they all come out, he will switch off the light and the fan, then open the door and come out. He didn't have to do this. So many people were there, Swami could have just told them, hey, switch, this is part of your routine, okay? After interview, switch off the light. No, he would personally do it. There are times, I remember, we would go inside the interview room, light will be on, fan will not be on, Swami will get up, he will not tell us to put it on, he will get up, come and put it on. Don't waste resources. Don't waste current. Such beautiful examples. This is another beautiful example. Many of you may have seen this, that in those days, letter giving was so common. Everybody will give letter. And the first thing that Swami used to do, I've seen so many times, he'll open the envelope. Then he will see half of the page is empty. So very patiently, this is an avatar. This is an avatar running hundreds of organizations, running hospitals, running institutions, running Satya Sai Seva organizations, but he would have time for all this. So very patiently, he would fold that blank part, cut the paper, and then he would give it back to the student saying, use it for some purpose. Sometimes even the envelope, he would take the letter and he would say, envelope you keep. And I remember once he had even sent instructions, don't write anything on the envelope. Don't say, beloved Swami, and all, let it be blank, I'll give it back to you, you use it again. What an example Swami set for us, right? In all these micro details, Swami has such, of course, the bigger things, no doubt he has set such great examples. And having set such examples, the next step is correcting. That is the greatest job of a leader, okay? It's not always a bed of roses. When you make mistakes, you have to be corrected. And Swami never shied away from correcting. This is one of my very fond, I love this experience. I've shared it in many forums, including in front of Swami. Let me take this opportunity. This is my second day of interview in Vrindavan. In the beginning, I had told you that with my parents, we had 2 interviews. So what happened on day 1? Let me tell you. Let me come to the end of the day 1 interview. Typically, when the interview ends, this is the interview room in Vrindavan. As you see, there is a Vibhuti bag next to Swami. So when the interview ends, Swami takes this bag and he gives everybody Vibhuti packets. This is a very standard process we would have seen after the interview. On that day, day 1 of our interview, I am seated, my parents are seated, a couple of people were there, and I remember there was one gentleman who used to run the foreigners' Western canteen in Prashanti Nilayam. I think his name was Charlie, or like young man. He was also seated there, and Swami spoke a lot to him that day. At the end, the time came when Swami lifted the bag. I was seated far behind because, as students and teachers, we always feel, okay, let the devotees. So I was quite far behind. And Swami got up, okay. Swami caught the bag, started going around to give. This gentleman, he ran to Swami and he lifted the bag. He said, Swami, I will hold the bag. When I looked at this, suddenly, my heart stopped. I said, what a foolish guy I am. I'm Swami's teacher, not yet a teacher, but going to become. I had just finished my meeting. How come it did not occur to me? And as this thought comes to my mind, Swami looked at me and he said, Sira, I felt, like Mother Sita felt, I also felt the earth should open and I should disappear inside. I had let down Bhagwan. Just imagine his own student. Even in our house, if a mother carries a heavy bag when she comes from the market, will I not run and hold the bag? Here is Bhagwan himself carrying the Vibhuti bag. How come it did not strike to me that I should go and catch the bag? And this gentleman from some overseas country had the courtesy to do it. I cursed myself. I literally was in tears. Anyway, Swami gave all the Vibhuti back. And he told my parents, Kal aao. So that was a great blessing. He wanted to bless them the next day. First thought that came to me was, next day, I should not make this mistake. Forget what else happens in the interview. At least at the end of the interview, I should not make this mistake. So second day, we got an interview and things went on. He spoke. I was waiting when it will get over. For a change, I was waiting when the interview will get over. And towards the end, I'm waiting. And I know Swami is going to lift the bag. That day, Swami had called some students from the Vrindavan hostel also, who were studying there. 2 of them were seated next to me, brothers. And the moment Swami said, ha, I was like totally tuned to him, waiting. The moment he said, ha, and his hand went this side, I got up and I don't know, I just like rushed towards him, sprinted towards him. Swami himself, sort of went back. He said, what, this like some hysteria or something? And I said, Swami, bag. The moment I said bag, you should have seen the motherly love. Swami was so happy. that the lesson he taught me the previous evening, I am implementing today. Swami was so bright and smiled, and he gave the bag to me. He looked at the two students from the Vrindavan hostel. He said, "Dekho." The previous day he told me, "Dekho," and today he told them, "See." So every day Swami is teaching lessons. Such a beautiful lesson he taught me. Let me skip this because of want of time. Let me close with this experience. Same one of those interviews inside, I talked about the door. There was one more occasion where Swami asked me to call the Vice Chancellor. Giri sir was the Vice Chancellor. Here you can see 4 Vice Chancellors sitting. So that day, remember, Giri sir was sitting right here where he was sitting. And since interview is going on, everybody's attention is towards the interview room only. So the moment Swami told me, call him, I opened the door. Please try and visualize. I have opened the door. Right in front of me, Giri sir is sitting. So obviously, I said, Sir, Swami. I mean, you don't even have to tell that. They're so tuned that he immediately got up and he came in. Swami saw this happening. And I got it. I got it. He said, Putti ledu, kukka. I mean, he was very upset and I don't know what happened. Then I thought maybe I called the wrong person. Maybe Swami had told somebody else. Then Swami clarified, is this the way you call the Vice Chancellor of the university? Now, from a human point of view, he is sitting just here. So just like this and he will come. Then Swami again demonstrated what I'm supposed to do. Swami said, it's so nice to listen. Swami said, you should open the interview room door, go right till where he is sitting, kneel down, go close to his ear, keep your hand like this and say, Sir, Swami is calling you. That is how you should call us. Oh my God, so many such lessons I have learned from Swami. I'll tell you what a perfectionist he is, right? And all this is Bharatiya Samskriti, this is Samskriti. When you say culture, if you are a cultured person, Swami is the epitome of culture. Everywhere there is concern, there is sensitivity, there is love. Let me quickly close. This is the last subtopic of humility. I will just pick up one or two in this because I have to close with the Maha Mantra also. Why am I showing this picture? Some of you may have guessed it. I don't know. Let me give you 5 seconds to guess why I have put this picture as a symbol for humility. Because Swami says the branch with the largest number of roots always bends down. So the one who knows more will always bend down. The one who knows less will act arrogant. Swami always made it appear as though we know everything and he knows nothing. And in fact, he has told this also in his discourse. The difference between an avatar and a human being is avatar knows everything but pretends as though he knows nothing. Human being knows nothing but we pretend, Swami, I know everything. That is the difference between an avatar and a human being. Spirit of Unity concerts, music festivals were conducted in Prashantinilayam for almost 3-4 years. Some of you may be aware of this. Wonderful people would come, great artists would come. One of the best opportunities we had to be exposed to the best artists in the world. Swami gave them so much of love. One occasion, Mr. Seshan had come. You can see this is exactly the same picture, right? Mr. Seshan had come, and I remember this is there in that video. If you see the video, you can't see the incident I'm telling you here. Swami asked him to sit down. Usually Swami asks them to sit down first, but then there is a debate. They'll say, no, Swami, you sit first. Swami is a perfect host. Finally, Swami sits. He told him, when he was going to sit, his handkerchief fell down. Believe me, brothers, there were so many people around. So many people, students, some teachers. Anybody could have gone and lifted the kerchief. You will not believe Swami got up, bent down, lifted the kerchief and gave it to him. Bhagwan is an avatar, he need not do it, but he bent down. I still remember that. If you see the video, you'll see Swami is bending down, lifting it and giving it to him. See, that is humility. You're nobody, right? For Swami, he doesn't have, as you can even see here, this debate is going on. Aap pehle betho. So they'll say, Swami, no, you should sit first. But as a perfect host, Swami would always say, no, you should sit first. And let me just jump to the last experience of this. This experience was narrated to me by my classmate Dilip Chaudhary. Many of you may know Dilip Chaudhary. He was one of those aides, those who would be with Bhagwan, like Satyajit was in the later years. So one occasion, Swami was coming out to give darshan. Please visualize, this is not that day's picture, obviously, but it is the same context. Swami was coming out, and if you remember those days, the people behind Swami would start only on the gent side. Those two people who stand up and sort of come behind Swami would start only on the gent side. Ladies' side, nobody would be there. So that evening on the ladies' side, it so happened one lady got up. Swami is walking. Dilip is seeing from the entrance of Purnachandra. This lady got up. She was in a very, some tragedy would have happened in her life. We don't know. She was so agitated. She said, Swami! And she came running towards Swami. Dilip is seeing this from the other side and he said, oh my God, what should I do? And this all has to be in an instant. You have to decide. And those days, Swami was very particular that no boys or gents should come on the ladies' side. So this moral dilemma was going on in Dilip's mind. Should I go or should I not go? But he said it's a question of Swami's, at a physical level, Swami's safety, because she would have come and hit Swami, the speed at which she was running. So he took a decision. He ran from Purnachandra, overtook Swami, came and he stopped the lady, and the lady literally sort of had to come down on the floor because she was really running. And he didn't know what he did was right or not. He did this. He just moved aside and Swami looked at the lady. He said something, and Swami smiled at her. She went to Swami and Swami talked to her, materialized Vibhuti and gave her. Looking at this, Dilip felt, my God, what a blunder I have done. Swami wanted to bless her. He gave her Vibhuti and I went and stopped her. He was feeling extremely guilty. He narrated this that day itself, and in the evening, when they have a session inside the Purnachandra hall alone, he was very down and he said, Swami, Kshamin Chandi, I made a very big mistake. I have actually come between God and a devotee. Swami said, what happened? He said, Swami, that particular incident, I should not have come and stopped him. Can you guess what was Swami's response? I'm enamored. I'll never forget these incidents because no worldly leader can give you these answers. It's only the divine master. What do you think would have been Swami's way of consoling Dilip? Swami told him, just mark these words, and they are great compasses in our life, great compasses, great guidelines in our life. Swami said, you did your duty, I did my duty. What a sixer, my God, you did your duty, means you were supposed to do it, good, you did it. I did my duty, I'm supposed to bless her. So both of us, win-win situation. Okay, so it's almost coming to 7:45, 5 minutes more, let me close. So as I told you, I've just given you the tip of the iceberg. We can never do justice to this whole phenomenon of Bhagwan as a leader, but I shared several personal experiences. I thought it'll be something new for you apart from what we already know in the public domain. Having said all this, what does Bhagwan talk about himself as a leader? That is very important. This picture says it all. So I'll give you 30 seconds to guess what could that mantra be. There are two mantras. So the first mantra, what could it be which is symbolized by this picture? Swami holding, this is not necessarily a student. It is every Jivatma is in whites, Paramatma is in orange, and every Jivatma is holding. This is one relationship which is constant across the globe, all the 7 point whatever billion people, whether they are devotees of Swami or not, Swami is holding everybody's hand. So this is what Swami has got to say. So let us listen to it in his own words. Okay. Oh, supposed to play.
Don't walk in front of me.
Don't walk in front of me.
Don't walk behind me.
Don't walk behind me.
Still walk beside me.
Still you walk beside me.
నేను మీకు ఒక ఆదర్శాన్ని అందించే కోసము కూడాను నేను ముందు నిల్చలేదు.
I am not standing ahead of you in order to hold myself as an ideal.
లేక మిమ్మల్ని లీడ్ చేయడానికి నేను వెనక నిల్చడం లేదు.
And I am not allowing you to lead me. I am not standing behind also.
నాతో సమానంగా మీరు నడచండి.
I am taking you as my equals. You walk along with me.
ఇది నేను కోరేది.
This is what Swami wants.
ఎందుకంటే ఇన్ ఫ్రంట్ ఆఫ్ గా మీరు ఉండకూడదు. ఇన్ ఫ్రంట్ ఆఫ్ మీరు ఉంటే నేను ఫాలో చేయను.
You don't stand in front of me. I am not prepared to follow you.
లేక బిహైండ్ మీ అంటే నేను మిమ్మల్ని లీడ్ చేయను.
You don't stand behind Swami also. Swami is not prepared to lead that way.
కారణం ఏమిటి
What is the reason?
అనగా ఆత్మ సమత్వమైనటువంటిది.
There is equality between Atma in one.
I and you are one.
The reason is I and
See, just look at that. No, this is the icing on the cake, right? Which leader will tell this? He says, don't keep me behind, I will not follow you. Don't come behind me, I'm not going to lead you. But still, and that still word has got great symbolism, but still beside me. And in fact, that's how Swami says, still beside me means be still, walk with me, hold my hand, I will do everything for you. There is nothing that we have to do in this world. I still remember once, let me quickly end this because it just came to my mind. We were in Shanti Vedika and their program was about to start, one of this birthday celebration. And I happened to be on the dais. There was this dog which was running to and fro. Somewhere the dog came and all the Sevadals were trying to chase it out. Then Swami told behind there, see, Akukka, the way it is running, as though it has to attend some board meeting somewhere. You know, it's running like that. So we all laughed. Swami said, Meerandru kuda atlane. You all are running in your lives as though you have to attend some great thing and as though the universe will stop functioning if you don't work. Just leave it to me. Hold my hand. Walk with me. We are one. I will take you to your goal. Which leader in this world can assure us of this? I will take you to your goal. Swami doesn't want us to do anything. Just walk with him. And if we have to become like that, this is the Maha Mantra of leadership which Bhagwan gave General Chibber. You all may be knowing General Chibber, who has written a book on the Mahavakya of leadership based on the message given to him by Bhagwan. Swami said, leader means to be. To be means to do comes later. It's not setting an example. To be means being, Sat. You have to be one with yourself. Being. That first, if you're connected to Swami inside, then the first qualification of a leader, you can tick it. Having connected to yourself within, then do. Then you start acting in this world. You will realize you're not really the doer. Bhagwan is the doer. You're just like a film actor. You're just playing your role to do. Then you look around, see, and then you tell the people. Then if you tell the people, they will give their life for you. Otherwise, it is all hollow, like bamboo. So first be, to do, to see, to tell. So it's 7:45 and I had promised you I'll close by 7:45. So thank you so much for allowing me to relive these wonderful experiences which epitomize Bhagwan as the divine leader. And let us not say, oh, this only Bhagwan can do, we cannot do. No, no. The avatar comes to show what a human being can achieve. So all that he did, today if you see, I have not shared any divine experiences. Nowhere have I talked of Swami's omnipresence or omnipotence or omniscience. As a human being, how he conducted himself. I think let us all aspire to be leaders. Swami, in one interview, I remember he said, there can be many followers, but I need more leaders so that they can lead the others and take the whole world to great heights. Thank you, Samarpan team. Thank you a lot. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, sir, thank you so much. I think, that for that masterclass on leadership. So we have some questions and I request the audience to continue putting their questions in the chat box here. One question on, one question that I think, many people have also would probably go. So it's in two parts. I'll read out both. The first part of this question is that, sir, how has the transition from the physical side to the cosmic side affected you, especially after you having spent so many years in close proximity? And paraphrasing the second part, what do you do? How do you connect with Swami when you feel lost, dejected, or in difficult times?
Okay, so luckily in my case, over the years, Swami had already enabled me to establish a connect within. In fact, I remember I had given on Guru Purnima one talk where I elaborated on this. There are 3 steps. The first step that Swami took me is Swami is within me. So many times, I was able to relate to Swami in real time. Matlab, inside something is happening. Swami is parallelly telling that. And I would wonder how Swami can know. Unless he is inside me, how he knows? But his form cannot be inside me. So it has to be cosmic energy. Means Swami is something beyond this body. He is energy which is even within me. So first of all, I got convinced Swami is inside me. And he would encourage me to do that more and more. The second step is Swami is not only inside you, he is inside everybody else also. So Anush, who introduced me, Swami is in him also. Siddharth, but Swami is in him also. So I should not only limit, okay, Swami is in me, Swami is in them also. And the third step is, some of our best friends. You know what I mean by best friends? Those people whom we don't like, those whom we hate, Swami is in them also. So this is a journey, and ultimately this is the truth. There is nothing other than Swami. And our Vedanta also says the same thing. Yat bhavam tad bhavati. You have to feel it to experience it. And luckily, by the time 2011 came, somehow Swami honestly had prepared me where, let me not say that the physical form cannot matter. It does matter. Impossible to say it cannot matter. We all want it, but that is not the end of the journey. That is not the end of the journey. The day we are able to see Swami in everything, why should I limit him only to one form? The day I can see Swami in everything around me, animate, inanimate. Remember the door of the interview room? That also feels the pain. Why? Because Swami is in that. He is feeling the pain. That is why he is able to say with so much conviction, hey, close the door properly. Just because it is more of tamas. We may not know that there is life in it, but there is life in everything. So that is how I was able to connect to Swami even after the physical form left. No doubt I missed the form, but I'm able to connect to him. And today, if you ask me, whenever I get lost, yes, you just have to close your eyes and visualize like I did now, just visualize the physical form of Swami instantly. You just think of Swami's face and there is joy inside. It's just impossible that it will not happen. So we have to just think of those days, think of those experiences, and instantly your mood will change and we can connect. And as I said, if we are able to really start relating to everything and anything around us as Swami, he will always keep us in that elated state. So that is how I try to not connect is wrong word, try to realize that we are connected. We are already connected. We don't have to connect. We only have to realize that we are connected. So I hope this answers the question.
Wonderful. Definitely, I think this is the deepest lesson that Swami had, taught through his entire journey in the physical form, and it would probably be our sadhana to, for the rest of our lives and lives to come to just realize that. Another question on related to leadership. Swami has, of course, apart from all the you've narrated so many instances. Maybe through a very, very short, even in very short interactions, like Ken Blanchard's book 1 Minute Leadership. Maybe in short instances, Swami might have communicated some of the greatest lessons. So, any incident that you could narrate related to a very, very short incident, but a profound lesson.
A short incident, but a profound lesson. It's difficult to quickly think of something because there are a couple of them. Why don't we go to the next question, and meanwhile let it ruminate. In case Swami gives me some incident, I'll share with you.
Sure. The next question is, how can we learn from Swami to inspire the masses, especially those of us who are working in large organizations?
Honestly, if you ask me the question, it's basically it bottles down to the same thing, the inner connect. See, when we talk of inspiration, you can give what you have. First formula is we can only give what we have. So if we have to inspire others in large organizations, we must ourselves be a storehouse of inspiration. Now, where does that storehouse of inspiration come? That is Swami. Swami is not different from inspiration. Swami is love, Swami is inspiration, Swami is motivation. So the more we can connect to him, and that was the meaning of to be, to do, to see, to tell. So I personally feel though one can give any number of worldly tips on how to inspire others, real inspiration can come when we are connected to Swami. And when you're connected to Swami, automatically you will be able to share your love with people. You will be concerned about them. You will have care for them. You will be motivating them, and then they will be ready to do anything for you. That is what I try to explain through all these experiences, that is the way to motivate. So true inspiration can come, first of all, inspire yourself. How can you inspire yourself? By connecting to Swami.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. And I think, the Samarpan sessions really help us on a fortnightly basis stay inspired. So that's, again, something wonderful. The next question is that Swami says, to be a good leader, we need to be good followers first. So any lessons on how to be a good follower by Swami standards? Not just be a good follower, but by Swami standards.
Yeah, by Swami standards, I guess it is implicit obedience to Bhagwan. First of all, you have to accept him as a master, accept him as a leader. And once you accept him as a leader, then there are no questions to be asked. You can ask questions. That's the difference between Prashna and Pariprashna. You can ask questions for clarification, but not ask questions for challenging. Or for saying, why should I do? Not that sort of arrogant questions, but genuinely when we have asked Swami several questions, he has been very kind and he has explained. So, just now you told me share one very profound incident. Quickly it occurs to me. In one interview, I used to do this a lot. This is a little bit of divine experience, but I used to fight a lot with Swami because you can't do it physically, with the leader, with the master. So in my mind, I used to fight a lot because it's very tough to follow Bhagwan's teachings, right? Control over your senses, control over everything, being very disciplined. It's a very tough challenge because our vasanas are always challenging us. So in my mind, I have had Mahabharat any number of times with Swami. And honestly, I'll tell you, there are times where, we used to have a small postcard size photos of Swami. I would take that and tear it and throw it out. Why? Because I'm angry with Swami. But with whom else can you be free? See, if you're like that with your mother, father, they may also send you out from home. But if not Swami, whom else? Swami is the ultimate. So I have been free with him in my mind. So I remember in one particular interview, Swami, there were other devotees seated. Swami pointed at me and said, this Dunapota, you know how he fights with me. I was like, just covered my face. I was feeling so embarrassed. Then came the lesson. Every experience of mine, there is a lesson. Swami immediately, he took that is a leader. He had the patience, took the time off to explain to me. He said, Churu, orange fruit. Now, where in the world an orange fruit came, but that, for an avatar, no, anything can be an instrument of lesson. He said, orange fruit, lopla mundi, sweet juice. Correct? Kani baita skin no, chala bitter. Swami said, why do you think God created like that? Bitter skin. Swami said, don't I know? But he said, there is a purpose. The bitter skin outside protects the sweet juice inside. So if you want to experience Swami's sweetness inside you, you have to remove all these bitter layers. That is why all this is happening with you. You're so upset with Swami, shouting at Swami. Honestly, after that day, I have stopped shouting at Swami because his love is so overwhelming, So even if challenges come in life, even difficulties come, I just have a little, a little cool chat with him. But I don't shout at him because after he told me that in the interview room, I really felt embarrassed. But look at the lesson he taught us. Everything, profound lessons. An orange fruit can teach us a lesson of how a bitter skin protects the sweet juice. So even in an organization, this is the way the leader should explain that yes, you struggle hard, then you will achieve your goal. No goal can be achieved, right? Neeraj Chopra may have got a gold medal and today everybody is talking about him. Look at the hard effort he has put in. I was looking at some of the videos, what fitness exercises he has done, how he has struggled. 2019, he was in the hospital with an injury. And now, 2 years later, he gets an Olympic medal. So that is one great lesson I have learned. So this was about the lesson which you asked, so Swami, very profound lesson he taught me. And I think the current question was what? Can you remind me? What was the current question?
How do we, so let me go back to that. Yeah, how can we, learn from Swami to inspire masses, especially those who work in large organizations?
See, I think I've answered that. It is to connect to Swami. This basically, we have to be connected to Bhagwan. And then we will be bubbling with joy and enthusiasm. And when we are bubbling with joy and enthusiasm, you don't have to motivate anybody. In your presence, they'll get motivated. We should always have this formula in our mind. When any being comes to me, can he go back vibrating at a higher level of energy than when he came? We should become like that. We should become chota generators. Avatar is the mega generator. We all should become small generators. Give joy. Give happiness to people. Don't share our sorrows with anybody. It's okay. Some few people in smaller circle fine, but otherwise give joy. This is the way I think leaders can really inspire, but that is possible amidst all challenges and ups and downs. And this all is easy to talk about, but on a day-to-day routine, when you work in the corporate world, all this will evaporate like steam. So at that time, remaining connected to Swami and not forgetting Swami. That's why Swami would say, sometimes you remember me, that is okay, but that's not enough. Constant integrated awareness, continuously, every second, Swami. It's like a film actor. He or she may be acting in the movie, but do they ever forget who they really are? They may be acting the role of a very poor woman in the movie. She may be, crying and going through all the struggle, but she knows the moment the take is over, she'll go to a 5-star hotel and eat good food. She remembers her original role. Same way, we have to remember that we are essentially Swami going through a human experience. That is the answer. If that we understand, you can be a great leader. If not 1,000, you can even manage 10,000 people, 10 lakh people, anything.
Speaking of leadership in organizations, another question is that, many of us might feel that we don't have the position, we don't have the authority to lead people. So in such cases, how can we, still be leaders that Swami expects us to be?
I think here comes the correct understanding of what leadership is. I think usually, we all fall for glamour. So leader means, I'm very popular and a lot of name and fame, and I've come on the TV every day and I've got 10,000 followers. This is the understanding of leadership most of us will associate with. That is not true leadership. According to me, the first leadership is, can I lead my own mind the way I should lead it? First leadership lesson. Swami will give highest marks. I remember every time exam results would come out, previous evening, there'll be a big program in the Kulwant Hall portico. Swami will go to everybody and say, tumko O grade aaya, tumko A grade aaya. And he would show off as though he knows, as though he's revealing his omnipresence. But the truth was, the next day when you go and see the notice board, quite reverse grade. Somebody whom Swami has told O grade would have failed. Somebody has failed, but Swami would have told bahut acha kiya, because he gave grades for his subjects. And his subject was master the mind, be a mastermind. So the first role of a leader is become a leader of our own mind. Once we become a leader of our own mind, Swami will use us as an instrument to lead others. So if we are crying that I don't have the position, I don't have the capacity in my office, I'm not being given an opportunity to lead, it only means we are not ready still. Otherwise, for Swami to give opportunities, and God's work is that creating situations, circumstances is an avatar's job. He is ready to create any situation, any circumstance in your life. You just have to ask for it and become deserving of it. That's why Swami would say, you keep saying, I want to serve, but I don't have opportunity. Swami said, do you really want to serve? If your heart is aching, this very next second, I'll give you an opportunity to serve. Same way, opportunity to lead also will be given by Swami if we first of all become leaders of our own mind, our own senses, and to do. Then he will say, come on, now see and now tell. So I think that is the answer. Let us not feel bad if we don't have those opportunities. And again, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. If we can lead one person, Swami is going to be happy. If we can bring up our own children in our own family well, I think that's a leader. If I can manage myself, I'm a leader. If I can manage my family, I'm a leader. If I can manage my extended family also, I'm a great leader. I don't need to be Prime Minister of a country alone to be a leader. That is again a leader at a different scale. But leadership is not about glamour. It's not about name and fame. It's about inspiring people to walk on the right path. If we can inspire somebody to walk on the right path, it may be only between the two of us. Nobody in the world may know, but Swami will tick off saying, "Ye leader ban gaya," because you have inspired somebody. So that's my answer to that question.
Thank you so much. I think so many questions answered, and so much you have, like you promised in the start, sir, that you'll take us to Prashanti. I think Prashanti, Brindavan, we've covered that in the span of 75 minutes, and you showed the diamond, so many facets of Bhagwan that were unraveled during these 75 minutes. That these Samarpan sessions really are a way of Swami telling Sira, this is what I want you to learn, and it will be our endeavor to live and walk the path that Swami has chosen for us, so that Swami can point to us and tell others dekho. And I think that will be our endeavor. Thank you so much, Rangarajan sir, for joining us and sharing these wonderful moments. I would like to tell all the audience members, the devotees who are here, alumni and devotees who are here with us, that this silsila will continue for the rest of this month. Our next session is on 22nd of August, and we will have one more of our very dear faculty members from the Department of Management and Commerce.
He's my doctoral research supervisor. Yeah. He's my PhD guide.
We will not be revealing the name.
I'm not revealing. I just said he's my PhD guide.
Definitely. So wonderful to have you with us. We will. So thank you once again, and thank you to Swami to bless us with this opportunity. We will end today's session with Samasta Loka.
समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति शांति शांति। जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय। Thank you, Sai Ram.
Thank you so much, Sai Ram.